Looking back over the last 2.5+ decades together, what has marriage taught you?
Oh, wow.
Besides
so
extreme
much.
patience.
So much.
Except extreme patience.
Well, it's taught me so much, and I want to talk about that verse. But let me just say this before I get into that. You know, when you get married, you talk about for better or for worse, right? We all talk about that. You marry for the better and you marry for the worse. And I think, at least from my perspective, all I can share is from my personal experience. I was very starry-eyed. I was 22 years old when we got married. And
What?
I thought, oh.
You were?
I was. I was very young.
That seems far too young.
I know, doesn't it? Especially when we have a 20-year-old daughter. Yeah. So obviously I went in, I had criteria, you met them, I went in, we were both Christians
I
at
met your
that
criteria.
point. You met all my criteria. We were both Christians when
and
we got married.
those of you who don't believe in miracles, you just heard one.
Yeah. No, but I think I thought going into marriage, the worst was, oh, yes, someone might get sick or we might have this struggle or that struggle, but I did not realize the depths of
disappointment that you would suffer at my hands.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But we have been through some seasons that were difficult.
Sure,
they really were. And what I didn't realize was that those difficult, what you would call worse times, they really, when you have someone that you're committed to, and you're married to someone that meets that criteria, they are Christian as well, it deepens your relationship with each other and it helps you to grow. And so those worst times, they're there and they are plentiful. But along with the joyous and the fun and the easy times, the two together are what grow a healthy marriage. And so that would, you know, I kind of thought of it going in, you have to suffer through the difficult times. And they're there in plenty.
Well, there is
but they draw you closer and they make you a stronger person and a deeper person.
There is a little bit of a trench warfare analogy there, maybe. You know, guys who end up in the trench together are bonded for life. And I think you're right. There is something about being in the trench together as husband and wife.
Yeah.
You've often said, if something happened to me, would you remarry? Right now, my answer is absolutely not, because how could I replace what you and I have gone through together
but
for the last 26 years?
I'm going to say this on the air, because I say this to our daughters.
Yeah.
If something happens to me, I want you to remarry.
No.
Yes,
no.
I do. I wouldn't want for you to be alone.
I can't imagine replacing this.
Well, you wouldn't.
Maybe it's
You'd
not
find
a
something
replacement.
different. You would find something different.
No.
Right.
No. I got my dream
appreciate
girl.
what you're saying.
I got my dream girl. So what else have you learned?
Well, let's go back to Ephesians chapter 5.
All right, let me get there.
Let's see, verse
magic,
30.
With laptop magic, I can be there without turning
instantly,
a single
almost.
5 verse 30. Yep.
You shared it at the beginning of the program, but let me just go through it here. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. For this reason, and we hear this at weddings all the time, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Now, we hear this a lot at weddings, and I hadn't thought of it this way until recently. Someone shared that the reason it says specifically, it doesn't say the man and the wife shall leave their father and mother. It says the man shall leave his father and mother. The cultural implications of this were interesting to me. The wife was expected to leave her father and mother. I think that's why it's not stated here. That was the expected process. She would leave her parents and she would join her husband. And traditionally, the son of the family would be the caregiver, the provider for the parents as they aged. So the son was expected to bring his wife into his original family, and they were to live together, maybe even physically under the same roof with his parents. But this verse really gives that new couple it empowers them and enables them to be their own family. So right from the first day that they're married, the husband, who is no longer a son in the sense that he's answerable to his father and his mother, now he and his wife are the primary decision makers for that unit, that new family unit that's beginning. And so it really sets them apart, to not be influenced by the mother and the father, even if they're living in their home and working together and working in business or on a farm together. And so I love that. That's a beautiful protective role that it provides for that new family. And the personal application of this verse to our lives, we were married in 93, and in 95 already, we had to leave both our parents.
Right.
First, we moved way up north in the same province of British Columbia in Canada, and then we moved across Canada, and then we moved from Canada down here to the U.S., and we've lived all across the U.S. But it's been hard in many ways. We haven't had our parents and our siblings and our nieces and nephews in our day-to-day lives. They haven't been a part of birthday parties generally and some of those milestones with our kids. But I believe that God ordained that because, Sean, you and I, as particularly being a ministry family, you and I are so much an individual family unit, including our daughters now, of course. We really have had to apply this Ephesians 5 verse to our lives. We have become one unit. And I think as sad and as difficult as it's often been being away from our original families, that was part of God's plan for us. It really was.
Wow, you went into some depth there. I'm going to sound like a shallow. As you're mentioning that, though, I guess that's the next phase. As our daughters start their family, you're spinning off. And that is not my family anymore. We're all family, but it's not my family.
It's their family.
It's interesting, that the emphasis that the Bible puts on the nuclear family. And I want to pause and say this. I know that in the West in particular, in America in particular, there aren't too many ideal nuclear family models left. There's a lot of broken homes, a lot of single parents. We're in no way disparaging that. What we're looking at is the ideal model, and we all fall short of the ideal in some way. And so I don't want anybody to be discouraged because we're focusing on the traditional nuclear model. But the Bible does hold that out as a school for faith and so on. But I'm looking at there's this real emphasis, and there's been an attack on that. It's not just that it hasn't done well in the West, and unfortunately, divorce rates are approaching similar numbers among Christians. I think the numbers have been skewed sometimes because when you roll in first, second, and third divorces and so on, the numbers do skew a little bit, and there is a way of looking at the metric that reveals that Christian marriages actually do survive a little bit better. Not perfect. I'm looking at all that, and the emphasis on the nuclear family as the primary unit. I think believers need to pay attention to that God has ordained this small cell. People like to talk about small group Bible study is very healthy for everybody.
Right,
so we have this small group Bible study in our homes, and the relationships there between parent and child and husband and wife are all there to help us learn more about who God is. And so I've looked at this, and I've thought, there are some things I've learned in 26 years, and you'll be shocked to hear that I've learned anything. But number one thing I can say is a guy, and it's this. Jesus loved the bride so much he was willing to lay down his life, and
the bride is the
for
church.
her, for the church. And I've looked at that, and theoretically I got it, but I've got to say, after 26 years, there is no question that if something were to happen in our home, I'd throw myself on the grenade. And there's no explaining that. It's an instinct. I would do that. I would throw myself on the grenade to make my number one concern in life now is that you do well. I mean, at this age, my big fear is, well, what happens if I die and you're still around? Did I provide for you?
Yeah. And I just have to say, I believe wholeheartedly when you say that. I believe you that is true of you, that you would do that.
And it's funny. It's an instinct. It's not like I had to coach myself for that. It kicks in. And so how much does God love his bride? Here's the other one that I ponder often. because I lay awake all night. You're sound asleep. You're right next to me, and you're cute when you sleep, except when you do your little, I call it the huff and puff, because you snore ever so slightly.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you snore ever so slightly, and you kind of, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
I call it the huff and puff. And it only lasts for a few
mean.
minutes. But you're cute. You're laying there, and I think, what an incredible gift somebody's life is. I mean, you didn't just agree to share a house with me. You get one lifetime, and you gave that to me as a gift. I can't believe that somebody would do that. And then I look at Christ, who gave everything. He gave up everything that he had in the glories of heaven to join us here in this miserable mess. He gave us his life. What a gift. And more than that, I mean, what Jesus accomplished at the cross is so much deeper than anything that you and I could provide for each other. But what a gift that somebody laying everything aside for the sake of the betterment of somebody else is. And I marvel at that. And I think, Lord, is that part of what I'm supposed to learn here? Look at this beautiful wife I got. I mean, praise the Lord, I got a pretty wife. You know, you're good looking, and I like that.
You're biased, but that's
Yeah,
all right.
no. I think maybe that's why our eyes go bad when we get older. God is sparing
Maybe.
us the brutal reality of 80 years of age.
There you go.
But I look at this gift, and I'm starting to get just a little more of a glimpse of maybe what God has given us. He gave us everything. He's willing to pour himself out. And so from a guy's perspective, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm starting to get that. I'm still selfish. We all are as human beings. And God is selfless, but look at what he gave us. So,
Amen.
yeah, I'm learning a lot.